No.
I see Amira's face and his face.
He was drunk.
Your relationship with my family, your relationship with me.
And the day I met her, Mr. Brown was present. But
You did, in fact.
You took advantage of me.
A year-long affair.
That is a
Found
lie.
out she was a.
Do this and we was together. No, you did not.
Oh, come on.
All right, so
For this case, we've got 4 people in court. That's right, it's a pretty big one. First, we've got Mr. Hughes, who says he's stuck between his mother and his ex-girlfriend. His mother, Ms. McBirth, says her son isn't the father of his ex-girlfriend's baby. The ex-girlfriend, Ms. Jackson, says that her 2-year-old son, Elijah Jackson, belongs to Mr. Hughes. And oh, the 4th person in court today is Mr. Hughes' sister, for some reason. Anyway, let's start with Ms. McBirth.
I can see that you are really hurting right now. I can see the tears. What are you feeling, Miss McKinney? Oh my goodness, she's just gorgeous. What are you feeling?
I just hope that he's the father of Amira Brown.
Hope that he is.
Yes.
So are you saying that you really don't know, but you truly hope?
Yes.
Okay, that's why we're here. Mr. Brown, you do not believe you're Amira's biological father.
No, I do not.
That's a very strong opening statement. She tenders the photo of the child in question and says the child looks absolutely nothing like Mr. Hughes. Well, that's possible. But we all know that doesn't mean the child belongs to another man, right? People don't always look exactly like their parents. But Ms. McBirth's argument is a bit more nuanced, if you could even call it that.
She did not look like me. And I waited, I gave it time to see how she would look. And more every day that I look and take pictures with Amira, she has his face. And it bothers me a lot.
So you feel Amira looks like the man you saw on the sex tape with your wife?
Yes, I do. More every day, I see Amira's face and his face, and it bothers me a lot. And not only that, she looks like more than one person than just him.
Okay, Ms. McBirth, that's one strong argument, but as we all know, arguments like that don't always hold up in the face of DNA evidence. Ms. Jackson, on the other hand, says that Ms. McBirth has so much doubt because her child is very white. That's not an issue, she says, because she's also white, so her son's skin color is not a smoking gun. But seriously, guys, Elijah does look really white.
And like what I seen, and I disclosed it.
Miss McKinney, how do you end up with another man doing a sex tape?
I mean, at the time, me and Mr. Brown was off and on.
How did you meet the other man?
I met him on a dating website. We started talking online, and then I finally met him in person, and he came to my house.
So how often were you sexually active with this man?
10 times.
And now, Mr. Brown, you believe this man is the father of Amira?
Yes, Sean.
Whoa. So Mr. Hughes has been in a relationship for 10 years, and this was just some affair that he had? That's crazy. And McBirth isn't done talking yet.
I think we need to meet that man. Jerome, can you please escort our witness into the courtroom?
bring her right up to the witness stand.
Thank you for joining us, sir.
Likewise.
State your name for the court.
Jonathan Fowler.
Mr. Fowler, we are here talking about the paternity of beautiful baby Amira. This court has learned that Mr. Brown found a sex tape of his wife and you in her phone. Is that true?
Yes.
We'll let the DNA test determine if that's going to happen or not. After all, stranger things have happened right here in front of Judge Lake. Anyway, Ms. McBirth continues to say that Elijah couldn't be her son's child because of how white he is. That seems to be her only real reason for thinking the boy isn't her grandson. And to be honest, it's a really weak reason, all things considered.
Her relationship status when you first met her.
Well, when I first met Miss McKinley, we was talking on the dating site, and the day I met her, Mr. Brown was present, but they wasn't together. But I seen them face to face.
Oh, the day you met her in person?
Yes.
He was there?
Yes.
So how did the sexual relationship start with Miss McKinney?
Me and Miss McKinley been having sex.
It's Miss McKinney.
Oh, Miss McKinley.
Interestingly, Mr. Hughes' sister, Ms. Terrell, has a very different reason for thinking Elijah isn't her nephew.
So how did the sexual relationship start with Miss McKinney?
Me and Miss McKinley been having sex.
It's Miss McKinney.
Oh, Miss McKinley.
You don't even know her last name?
Me and Miss McKinley been having sex the whole 2016.
You say you're in a year-long affair.
I met Miss McKinley I met her the ending of 2015 going to 2016.
So, this is my question. What did she say? Who did she say Mr. Brown was?
Ms. Terrell also says that the baby has Ms. Jackson's ex-husband's name, but Ms. Jackson's ex-husband's last name is also Jackson, so I don't see how that's an issue here. Mr. Hughes' name is not on the birth certificate, and that's because Mr. Hughes wasn't there when Elijah was born. By the way, who else finds it weird that Mr. Hughes is not speaking for himself here? He's very watching as 3 women argue over whether Elijah is his son.
That she's pregnant and she's ready to give birth.
So who did she say the father was?
She didn't tell me
I
nothing.
said it was complicated.
I believe it was complicated because, like I said,
I was back and forth for him and him.
that sex
back and
tape
forth.
was April 9th, and Amira was born April 9th.
Did that math add up?
No.
Were you intimate with your wife, Miss McKinney? When were you intimate with her?
From the year of 2017, I'll say we got back together in April. So yeah, around that time, April and May.
Ms. McBirth is really passionate about Elijah not being her grandson. It's almost infectious, and it's honestly impressive just how much bile and anger she has for Ms. Jackson.
Before they got back together,
Then Amira was born in April of 2018.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, she was.
So at some point you said you were being intimate with both men, Ms. McKinney, right? You
Yeah,
were going back and
Was
forth.
in February, the first time I met
The
him.
only reason why she was born early is because of complications, which her due date was supposed to be April 23rd, 2018.
Okay, so Mr. Brown, can you take me to the point you found out Ms. McKinney was pregnant?
You've got to say, if it turns out Elijah is actually Ms. McBirth's grandson, she would probably pass out from a heart attack. And Ms. McBirth, if women are dropping off kids at your house left and right because of your son, then you've got to blame your son and not innocent mothers who want the father of their kids to stand up.
You found out, did you say, oh, I'm so excited, or did you say, is this my child?
First, I was like, oh yeah, I'm excited. And then when we went to the hospital back in September, they would say she was 11 weeks pregnant. And then when they told her the due date,
It was 12 weeks.
yeah, 12 weeks. 12 weeks pregnant, actually. And then they told her the due date, whatever. When we went back again, they was like, April 23rd. And I'm like, April 23rd? Okay, cool. And the whole pregnancy, when she said it was complicated, I just felt like something wasn't right.
Me Hughes thinks there's a chance that this baby is his. That's probably why he said nothing since this case started. We know that both of them were sleeping together without protection, and if there were, it means there's some chance that Elijah belongs to Mr. Hughes. For some reason, Ms. Terrell thinks this is basically impossible. Maybe she's somehow forgotten high school biology.
I said no because Amira didn't look like me. That's why I said no.
That too.
Why did you refuse?
Because since we're married and I get public assistance, they're gonna try to hit him with child support.
But you all were legally married. So why would he have to be on the hook for child support if you're legally married?
I didn't want him to sign a birth certificate.
It is complicated. You said you immediately had doubts.
Yeah, when I looked at Amira, I said, hey, when I was born, I was pale. But wait, look at her lip. Why does her lip look so fat?
Ms. McBirth isn't just an angry mother-in-law, she's also a bridge-on-the-nose expert. That's right, she's brought close-up pictures of the bridges of the noses of her family members and says Elijah's own just doesn't match. Great work, Ms. McBirth. Sadly, that's not a DNA test. Meanwhile, Ms. Terrell has yet another reason she doesn't believe Elijah is her nephew.
I can see how much it's been weighing on you and how that's what happens. Your mind, every little thing this
because-
poor little innocent baby's doing, you're analyzing.
No, that's my child.
But let me ask you, could you be the father?
no.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay. So do you believe you are Amira's father?
No, I do not.
When's the last time you were intimate with Miss McKinney?
2017 of April.
That's a whole year before Amira was born.
Right.
Mr. Hughes says he's heard Elijah call other men daddy, and one of those men was the last man that Ms. Jackson dated. He also says that Ms. Jackson was with another biracial guy before she was with him. Ms. Jackson says this was 3 months before she met him, and she was 5 weeks pregnant when she found out she was having Elijah. But that doesn't seem to satisfy Ms. McBirth at all. Honestly, I think her main group should be with her son.
Done? Why? If you hadn't been with him for an entire year, he's out of the picture. Why tell him you're pregnant?
I have no clue.
You just decided I'm gonna call and tell Mr. Fowler I'm pregnant?
Yes.
There's something you're not saying. So, Mr. Brown, now that you hear the testimony that Mr. Fowler says that it was a year earlier, an entire year, when they broke it off and the relationship was done.
So there's the real issue. Ms. McBirth just doesn't want any more grandkids that she has to take care of, and Elijah seems like just one more headache. That's an awful way to phrase it, really, but at least now we can all understand why she's so angry at Ms. Jackson. Let's check out the results now, and hopefully Ms. McBirth doesn't blow a gasket from hearing the actual DNA test results.
Someone call the medic, please. Just take a seat, honey, and breathe.
It's crazy.
What are you feeling in this moment?
I'm actually shocked. Neither one of us is dead. I'm just like,
I need to ask you, do you know who her father is?
No.
Well, I need to ask this respectfully. How many other possibilities are there? Do you remember? Gotta be honest with yourself at some point. You can't keep bringing children in the world.
Mr. Horn here says he might have lived a crazy life as a young man, but he's completely sure that he isn't the father of Ms. Mannion's 29-year-old son, Andrew Haight. Ms. Mannion says she and Mr. Horn had one wild weekend of intercourse, and that encounter created Andrew. She's sure the DNA test today will prove it. Let's listen to Mr. Horn recounting his version of events.
She got a phone call from Mr. Haight saying that I might be his father. I got the phone number from my family member, and I called Mr. Haight and kind of of told him, I was like, you know, you do know how your mom is. I mean, she's like a railroad track. She's been laid all across America.
Your Honor,
So
that is
there's
a lie.
no
That
way
is
he
a
can be the father.
Okay.
None.
Let's try to be respectful, but I get your point. So it was your opinion that Ms. Mannion had been promiscuous.
So that's the argument here. Mr. Horn says he can't be sure he's Mr. Hate's father just because Ms. Mannion was kind of like an American rail track.
Be his biological father.
He is the father because I was in another relationship and a paternity test did come out that the other guy was not the father. And there was only 2 people that I was with during that time.
So there were 2 people you were with, and you said you had a DNA test on the other one, and so you feel like it has to be Mr. Horn from this point.
Yes.
That's
Okay,
fine.
I want to understand how all this started.
We were at a party on the weekend at an apartment complex of a buddy of mine's.
That might not have said great things about Ms. Mannion's behavior as a young woman, but it's a fairly great argument. If you were with 2 people and one of them got a DNA test that says he's not the father, then the other man is the father. Well, except there's one tiny little hiccup. But before we get to that, let's hear about this encounter that Mr. Horn and Ms. Mannion had.
She showed up. I didn't really have a clue who she was. We started chatting. She kept coming on to me.
That
I
is a
found
lie.
out she was a friend of mine's, girlfriend or dating. They were dating or whatever. He was in California. So she kept coming on to me. The more we drank, I drank quite a bit. Passed out. I woke up to the best alarm clock ever.
Oh,
And it was kinda on for-
no. I do not
yes.
do that kind of stuff.
Yes, you did.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Mannion says this never happened. Instead, she says that he was drunk and they got together. Mr. Horn says no, he was drunk and Ms. Mannion took advantage of him. This happened over 29 years ago. And at this point, I'd seriously doubt either Mr. Horn's or Ms. Mannion's ability to reliably recollect anything that happened.
Who up?
Right.
And because that's the evening you say you conceived your son.
I only slept with Mr. Horn twice.
Okay.
One that night and one the next day.
And then from there, you basically moved on. You guys did not start a relationship. You didn't keep in touch. It was none of that.
Not even close.
Did you ever hear she was pregnant?
I found out that she was pregnant after she had the child. I ran into the dude that she was dating at the time.
It's clear Mr. Horn has no respect whatsoever for Ms. Mannion, and that's kind of weird seeing as they never even got into a relationship. Here's the thing. When Ms. Mannion got pregnant, she thought the child belonged to the man that she was with at the time. But then, the man took a DNA test, and the test came back negative. The only hiccup is that Ms. Mannion never saw the DNA test results, so she cannot tender it in court today.
I know is he told me.
I even called her family after this because the said dude that she thought was the father gave me the phone number because I was like, you know, if I got a kid, I want to be part of the kid's life. When I called, the grandmother answered the phone and I said who I was, and the grandmother's like, are you sure that you're the father?
So you knew at that point there was a question as to the paternity.
Yes, ma'am. I'll admit, I used to drink a lot and used to drug a lot.
So Mr. Horn was willing to take care of a kid if he was his. The only problem was that he never knew that the kid was his because Ms. Mannion never got back to him after he called her mother. That's because Ms. Mannion's mother didn't keep the number that Mr. Horn left as a calling card, and it eventually got misplaced. And that's why we are here 29 years later. It's time to hear about this case from Mr. Haight himself.
Who did your mother lead you to believe was your biological father from the beginning?
Well, I was with my grandparents for the first 5 years of my life.
Okay.
I considered them my mom and dad, and I kept calling her Christina.
Okay.
I ended up going to live with her at the age of 5.
Okay.
And she was married at the time.
Okay.
And so I assumed that he could have been the father at that time.
Okay.
So Mr. Haight only knew that Mr. Horn could be his father when he was 12 years old. And after that, he only got in contact with Mr. Horn when he was 24 years old.
So did you ever think to maybe fill your son in and say, well, there also was another guy?
Your Honor, the other guy did sign the birth certificate because he believed also that he was the father.
Let me see that, Ron.
Here you go, Your Honor.
So wait a minute.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, my son's last name is my maiden name.
Okay, so you gave your son your maiden last name.
Yes, I did.
The name of the father on the birth certificate, is it the same name?
That's a bit harsh, Mr. Horn. The incredible thing is that Ms. Mannion never told her son about the other man who took a DNA test to see if he was the father.
Then he thought your husband was his father. Then you told him he was his father. Then in court
Then
you
you
said
told him
there's
somebody else.
another guy. I'm listening to this story. And at 29 years of age, I think we need to take a little bit more seriously the fact that he still really doesn't know who his biological father is. And as you stand here today, and you so easily write that other guy off because he got tested and he wasn't the father.
Now that we know where Ms. Mannion and Mr. Horn are coming from, it's time to get the DNA test results and see whether Ms. Mannion is lying or something else is wrong here.
When it comes to 29-year-old Andrew Haight, it has been determined by this court, Mr. Horn, you are his father.
I told you. I told you.
We got this done, right?
Yeah,
How do you feel?
I'm very happy.
I'm happy for you. You're a 29-year-old young man, and you know what? I see young men come in this courtroom that have never, ever known their father at all.
Ms. Greenhouse has summoned Mr. Thompson to court over special circumstances. She says ever since she called off their wedding last month, he's refused to take care of their 7-month-old son, Gay. She says he's stopped taking care of Gay because he claims he's not the boy's father. Today, she wants a DNA test to prove that Mr. Thompson is indeed her son's father. Mr. Thompson says it's impossible that he's Gay's father because Ms. Greenhouse confessed that she'd slept with another man around the time he got conceived. To make things even spicier, Mr. Thompson's mom is also in court to testify on behalf of her son.
Oh, well, I was gonna marry Gregory. We were dating for 11 years off and on. I have a 4-year-old son by Gregory, and I also have a 7-month-old by Gregory. I called off the wedding because he's insecure and he's disrespectful, and I don't wanna marry someone like that.
After 11 years, you just figured that out?
No, it's like, no, we were together for 11 years off and on, but I had my 4-year-old son, right? I went off to college. Right after I had my 4-year-old son, I got pregnant. We tried to make it work there.
Ms. Greenhouse says Mr. Thompson doesn't trust her at all, and she would rather not deal with that sort of energy. Well, great choice, Ms. Thompson, but you should have made it years ago. Of course, Mr. Thompson doesn't agree.
Out of 11 years, 8 of them, I was the one trying to keep this together when it's always fell apart because
How? You're always accusing me of sleeping with somebody.
Her family, and all the rest.
You're not in a relationship with my family. You're in a relationship with me.
That's what I was trying to figure out.
But why do they always come up?
So how do your mama, this one, and the other sister, how everybody think they got more authority over me and mom?
That's what we call a Freudian slip, Mr. Thompson. What do you mean at the time you made Gay? Aren't you in court to prove that Gay isn't yours? Anyway, Mr. Thompson corrects himself and continues with his explanation.
At the time we conceived him, or supposedly conceived him, she was still having sex with multiple partners.
That's a lie. You asked me who did I have sex. It was never multiple partners.
It's not a lie.
Never come at me like that. You asked me
it's
who did I have
not a lie.
sex
What I do?
2 weeks
What
prior.
I do?
Then we had sex. I had sex with somebody else.
What I do? I went through your phone. I went through your
2 weeks
Facebook.
prior.
It ain't no 2 weeks.
She testified 2 weeks before.
Mr. Thompson goes on to explain that at some point Ms. Greenhouse admitted that she'd been sleeping around. But Ms. Greenhouse says that's a complete and total lie.
The phones, the messages, everything I presented
What
to you.
pictures?
Everything
What
I
did you
showed
present
you.
to me? We were a family.
Everything, we wasn't a family. Everything I showed her, she told me and admitted to it on her own.
Together.
Okay.
I cut out everybody to be in a relationship with you, so how's it a problem?
Ma'am,
That's a lie.
Ma'am, the question was
Okay.
asked to him.
Mr. Thompson, you said you were the one trying to hold this family together.
And Mr. Thompson isn't done yet. He says that Ms. Greenhouse never really loved him, and that she used to tell him that she only stuck with him because they had a kid together already. Ms. Greenhouse says that's a lie as well.
And
That's a lie. That's a lie.
man, look at here. Like I said,
We was only together because of SJ?
this is what you told me multiple times.
told
You
you
don't
that.
really want to be with me, Greg.
told
You
you.
only with me
Greg,
because of SJ.
I told you that.
And to a major extent, yes, because of my son, the all-American way, your mom and your original mama and daddy and raising your kids together. If it don't work, it don't work. But I tried my longest and my hardest.
Why do you go back to him?
Well, it doesn't look like any of that is happening now. Ms. Greenhouse says she had a problem with her family because of Mr. Thompson and didn't speak to them for months at a time. Mr. Thompson then says Ms. Greenhouse gives her family way too much of their money, but Ms. Greenhouse says he gives his mother money too. But Mr. Thompson's mother isn't taking that at all.
Yes, Miss Thompson.
Greg doesn't give me money. If anything, when they fall on hard times, I help y'all with rent.
You have never
I
called
help
Greg
y'all
and
with
asked
light.
him for $20 into another day to hold you over?
Nope.
Never.
You know what?
Okay.
You know what, Christy?
Okay.
If I have, I've given him millions. I should have. something
Okay, and
in
what's the
his pocket
problem with me
when he
giving
gets
my
some.
family?
I should
What's
have.
the problem with me giving my family?
I'm not addressing your
Okay,
family.
then.
What I am
Okay,
telling
then.
you, and what
Then
I'm
give
telling
you
you
money.
why you
Then
frown
give you money.
is
When I
when
do
it's
it, we
all
not
said and
hurting.
done.
It's time to get to the crux of Mr. Thompson's doubts. He says this doubt that he has comes from Ms. Thompson sleeping with another man 2 weeks before they'd supposedly conceived Gay.
Around that time, like I said, she was talking to multiple guys, and she's admitted. And then, like I said, from jump, not
Before
to go
we had
back,
sex,
she
like
said,
I told you, I
she
had
said
sex
a
with
week.
somebody else.
Everything
2
hit
weeks.
the fan.
2 weeks.
It was a wrap.
No, 2 weeks.
What do you
I
mean?
told
When you say when everything hit the fan, it was a wrap.
When when we start breaking up or problems start building and piling up, it wasn't much that we could do, because...
For Mr. Thompson, it's really simple. He says at that point in their relationship, Ms. Greenhouse was sleeping with multiple men, but Ms. Greenhouse says it's all a lie to hide his anger about the wedding getting called off.
If you had doubt, you should have brought that not 7 months later when my son is 7 months old. Don't bring doubt 7 months later. You signed his birth certificate. Matter of fact, Your Honor, when we was in the hospital, Greg asked me about his, can I approach that?
Yes.
Yes, okay, can I go show you this? When I was giving birth to my son in the hospital, Greg came to me and said, what name do you want? Do you want G-E-E, G-I-E, or G-E-I? And I said G-E-I, and that's my son's name. My son is G. Rakeem Thompson.
Ms. Greenhouse's point is that if he had these doubts, why didn't he bring them up when he gave Gay his name? The fact that he was with her throughout the entire pregnancy, signed the birth certificate, and never brought this up shows that Ms. Greenhouse is probably correct. She says she asked him if he wanted a DNA test before he signed the birth certificate, and he said no. Ms. Greenhouse even has a witness to testify to that fact.
I'm only here because I was there during the time that Chrissy and Greg rekindled their relationship.
You're saying you were there and you overheard something as it related to Mr. Thompson not wanting to have a DNA test?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you hear?
When it came up to them going to the hospital to have G, Chrissy was talking to Greg or whatever. She was like, hey, make sure, right before they brought in the paperwork, the affidavit stuff. She was like, are you sure you want to do that? We can get a DNA test.
Oh, that's settled then. Mr. Thompson is really just conducting this DNA test because he's no longer getting married to Ms. Greenhouse. Let's see the results and get to the bottom of this argument. Is Gay really Mr. Thompson's son?
Greenhouse versus Thompson. When it comes to 7-month-old G. Thompson, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Thompson, you are the father. You are the father.
I feel more relief.
For what? And you knew this from jump.
No, I didn't.
You knew this from jump.
You knew I had doubts from jump.
Everyone's entitled to their beliefs or doubt, but my whole thing is like, don't doubt my son when I break up with you because you're disrespectful.